I'm riding a black unicorn down the side of an erupting volcano, and I drink from a chalice filled with the laughter of small children. Welcome. Hold on a second. I've got an echo. Let's get rid of that echo. Let's get rid of the echo. Here we are. Welcome to the January 2022 Voltaire Video Newsletter, the very first one of 2022. We're starting a whole new year here at the Lair of Voltaire. What a pleasure it is to welcome you all into my home, my spooky lair, with my creepy cushions, and my corvids and skulls. I'm assuming you've probably watched enough Gothic Homemaking to see where all of this stuff came from. Well, in any case, before I start blabbering, first of all, as you notice below, it says hold your questions until the end, because I do tend to want to tell you a little bit about what's going on in the world of Voltaire, and then we do the questions at the end. So people who send, super chats and super stickers and things like that might get a little irate if I don't see their question at all. So just hold your questions to the end. As always, we're going to begin like we always begin these video newsletters. First, I got to turn my cup so you can see. Wicked! Anyway, we're going to start like we always do with where am I playing near you? And as it happens, I've got quite a few shows coming up. So let's take a look at those. Nope, wrong one. Here we go. January 8th, that's this Saturday night. I'm in New York City at the Mercury Lounge. More about that later. I go on at 11 p.m., so please come early. Don't show up at midnight or you will have missed the show entirely. January 30th, I'll be celebrating my birthday. My official birthday show of the year will be in CDMX, otherwise known as Mexico City, or La Ciudad de Mexico at Foro Ilvana. So, si eres mexicano, o si por alguna casualidad estás en la Ciudad de México, enero 30, por favor, ven a celebrar mi cumpleaños conmigo. And then February 12th, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona at Rebel Lounge. That is an all-ages show. Actually, the Mexico City show también. Mexico City show is all ages. El show en la Ciudad de México es para todo edades. The New York show, unfortunately, that's 21 and up. Moving on, we got the Jacksonville, Florida in February 26th at Bold City Con. And on March 5th, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia for the first time in a million years where I'm not playing at Dragon Con, like a non-Dragon Con show. For those of you who don't feel like, fighting your way through 80,000 people to see my show, you can see me on March 5th at the Masquerade. And those are the shows in the immediate future. Now, before I go on, because there's a UK tour, and I'm going to show you those dates in a second. But before we move on to the UK tour, I do want to talk a little bit about the New York City show. This show is very special to me, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I almost never play in New York City. Why? I think people here don't care. They always say like a prophet is never appreciated in his own land. I find that that's true about a lot of places. Like when I go to play in Los Angeles, I'll play at Bar Sinister in Los Angeles, and I get these local bands, and they come out and they're like, dude, we played here last week, and there was like 15 people. How do you do it? So many people come out to see you. There's 200 people here. How do you do it? I'm like, I don't know. When I play in my hometown, it's like 15 people. And they're like, dude, we played in New York and it was packed. But then we play in Los Angeles and there's no one there. It's just I think there's a certain, maybe there's truth to familiarity breeds contempt. Or I don't know, just like, I always imagine that when I say I'm playing in New York, the great majority of people in New York who are familiar with music are like, I could run into that guy at the karaoke bar. Like, I don't need to pay $20 to hear this guy. I could literally like walk into a karaoke bar and randomly see this guy in there. So I don't know what it is, but hopefully I will be wrong. Hopefully it'll be really well attended, because it's a very, very special show for me. And I'll tell you why. Because nearly 30 years ago, my musical career started like right there. That was the epicenter. Okay, so Mercury Lounge is situated here, and directly next door to Mercury Lounge used to be a giant nightclub called The Bank, and it was like an actual turn-of-the-century bank that they had turned into a nightclub. And it was a proper goth club. They played absolutely nothing but goth music, and it was every Friday and every Saturday. You know, the state of affairs in the goth world today is like you can't even keep like a monthly party going half the time. This was every Friday and every Saturday, and it was like 2,000 people every single night. It was always packed. I saw a lot of bands there. And like back in the 90s when I was hanging out at goth clubs but had not yet picked up a guitar, when I thought to myself, like, I have aspirations of being a musician, do I have any business being on stage? The Bank was where I went, you know, to like watch bands and say, where do I fit in? How do I fit in? Am I like a million times worse than like the worst band playing here tonight? Like that's how I gauged. Does my music belong in this club? Like all of those questions, all of those early questions that I asked myself before ever getting on a stage, I asked myself at the Bank. Now, okay, so that's the Bank, and then here's Mercury Lounge, and half a block away is Katz's Delicatessen, and I lived directly behind Katz's Delicatessen in an apartment with no electricity for 6 years. And people ask me all the time, they're like, how did you live with no electricity? How did you live? And I always tell them, you know, same as Mozart, same as Shakespeare, same as Plato, same as Socrates, same as Da Vinci. Like none of those guys had electricity. They did just fine. And I did okay too. I'll never create anything as great as any of those names I just mentioned, but I was writing songs in the dark by candlelight. I learned to play guitar because I didn't have a television, because I didn't have a radio, because I didn't have a laptop I could plug into anything. I learned to play guitar. That's where I learned to play. And I wrote When You're Evil and Anniversary and Ex-Lover's Lover and The Man Upstairs, which was about the guy who lived upstairs from me in that apartment. So like I got a lot done living in an apartment with no electricity. And then my very first show ever was 2 blocks away from Mercury Lounge at a place that was called Den of Thieves. So like my entire musical career was born right there. Like that was the epicenter. So it's so like poetic and nostalgic for me to be standing on a stage, right, in the words of David Bowie, in the center of it all. In the center of it all. So I really hope you'll come out. If you live in New York, if you live near New York, I hope you'll come out Saturday night to see me play, to return home to the place where it all began. All right, and then Mexico City. So my birthday show every year has been like either in Austin, Texas, or in Los Angeles. It's kind of gone for a while there. I did like my birthday show 4 years in a row in Austin, Texas, and there was like a couple of birthday shows in a row in Los Angeles. Well, this year it's going to be my home away from home, mi segundo hogar. Mm-hmm. Is that how you say it? Mi segundo hogar. La otra ciudad en donde vivo, medio del tiempo, la Ciudad de México. Y voy a tocar ahí enero 30 en Hilvana. And Hilvana, that nightclub, my very first date with a certain young lady by the name of Mayumi Toyoda was technically at Hilvana. Ilvana. Yes. You don't pronounce the H, I guess. No. So we didn't meet there. We had met earlier that day, and I invited her to my show. And she was like, "Oh, you're a musician?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm playing tonight." And she came to my show. So it's not really like a first date, but really. Oh, I was playing and looking up at the balcony like Romeo and Juliet. I was on the stage performing the entire show to the woman who would become my fiance.
Yes.
True story. So I love that place. It's very important to me, and I hope that you will come see me January 30th. Enero 30. Bueno, ahora tengo que decir todo eso en español otra vez.
Yes.
Pues, oh, honey, that's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can't kick the table. Well, yeah, we're gonna knock over a cocktail, which is gonna cover the laptop, and then I'm gonna have to schedule 15 more shows to buy a new laptop. Sí, no, los pies no van ahí.
I'm sorry.
Patán.
No.
Tú sabes, por eso dices patán, ¿no?
No.
Porque es alguien que tiene patas. Like,
yeah, but no.
I think so. It's funny, like not being Mexican, I hear Mexican slang, and I sometimes can sort of like figure out the origin of the slang, which people don't usually think about. You know, like in America, if you think of a slang word, you don't often think about like what is the etymology of that slang. But when you're foreign, you do, because it sounds like other words, and you start putting stuff together. And there's a word, ¿qué significa patán? Like a savage, right? There's a slur.
Grosero.
Yeah, grosero. There's like a slur in Mexican slang, patán, which is like rude,
Bruto.
stupid,
Grosero.
gross, you know, rude and uneducated, like
Yeah.
uncivilized, really like a savage.
Pero es una persona que trata mal. Así.
Yeah, like someone who treats other people very poorly. And it's patán. And there's a funny, I learned the word from a song. ¿Cómo va la canción? Tu madre no me quiere.
Tu mamá no me quiere.
Tu mamá
piensa que
no me
soy
quiere,
un
piensa que yo soy un patán.
Que soy un pelado.
Un pelado. So anyway, so that's where I heard the word for the first time, and I was like, patán, oh, that sounds like pata, which means paws. So it probably means a creature with paws. And it's probably not far off, because it's, you know, like a savage. A beast. A beast. Anyway, boy, am I off track here.
Yeah.
January 30th at Hilvana in Mexico. Come see me there if you can. It's going to be a really, really fun night. And I'll be celebrating my birthday, and I'm going to be 55. Can you believe it? 55.
Yeah.
Oye, ¿estás comprometido con un viejo?
I know.
Yeah, you're engaged to an old man.
Sí, cierto.
I'm so glad you're not that far behind me.
I
You're right behind me.
am behind you.
Well, in any case, so those are the shows that are going on. And then we get into the UK tour. Now, of course, this UK tour has been postponed several times at this point. I don't remember why. I'm kidding. We all know why. And it's been postponed to April. And as of now, it's on. Let me show you the dates. April 8th is going to be in either Wolverhampton or Birmingham. Originally, that show was at the Slade Rooms, I think, but Slade Rooms has since closed. So we are now looking for a date, a venue, I should say, in either Wolverhampton or Birmingham. But there is going to be one on April 8th. And then the 9th, I'm in Glasgow at Ivory Blacks. On the 12th, I'm in Edinburgh at Opium. On the 13th, I'm in York at Fulford Arms. On the 14th, I'm in Manchester at Night People. On the 15th, I'm in Bristol at Exchange. Excuse me. I seem to have a frog in my throat. And on the 16th, I'm in London at Nambucca. Now, that London show used to be at a different club, but it has since moved to Nambucca. And as of now, those dates are all happening. And I believe there's ticket links at voltaire.net. You know, I probably should have made a little banner so you know where to go. I'm pretty sure in the video description below, there's a link to my website where all my shows are listed. And you can get tickets for this Saturday night's show, for instance, for the show in Mexico City. I think pretty much for all of them, you can get tickets at my website. So hopefully I will see you at one of those places. And of course, the year is very, very young. I will be booking many, many, many more shows in the future. There's a show that might happen in Burlingame, California in March. And there's a show that's definitely happening in June in Sacramento, Sinister Creature Con. And then I don't know about anything else. But, you know, an LA show is imminent. A Seattle show is imminent. Dallas. You know, all the places that I typically play. Dallas, Austin. You know, there's a whole bunch of places where I play all the time. I'm sure, I hope to see you guys on the road in 2022. And that's everything that I want to say regarding upcoming shows. So let's move on to another topic. I'm going to remind you again that, you know, super chats and stickers are welcome. But if it's attached to a question and you want to make sure that I get your question, just hold it till the end so that no one feels slighted. Play Tijuana. I'd love to. I'd really love to play in Tijuana. But when I tried to play in Tijuana, they said no. They said, Tijuana, no. I'm joking. No one's booked me to play in Tijuana yet. I've played in Monterrey, and I think I played at a convention in Cancun once. But, You know, when the Spanish record comes out, I'm guessing full Mexican tour.
Yes.
Full Mexican tour. You know what would be really cool?
Mm.
Full Mexican tour with a full band.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Because I've picked like most of the songs that are going to be on the Spanish album. A lot of them are from Ookie Spooky, which has a lot of sort of ska, upbeat stuff with horns, which is gonna, I think would go over really nicely in Mexico. And so hopefully that happens. But I'm getting ahead of myself because the Spanish album isn't happening at all until Black Labyrinth is finished. Where's my poster? I was going to show you a Black Labyrinth poster. But the very first poster, let me see if I can get a glare-free angle here. Very first poster made for the Black Labyrinth. How's that? That's not too bad. That's not too bad. A Requiem for the Goblin King. These are illustrations from the illustrated book that I am writing and drawing alongside making the album, The Black Labyrinth. I'm going to post for a thumbnail. I'm going to get a screen grab of that later. In any case, the two figures here, Prince Valerian and Zenobia Vosk, were illustrated by Abigail Larson. And Took Pilfer Snatch, the little goblin thief, was illustrated by Erin Horrors, and the snake was illustrated by Drea D. Art, or Dread Art. I have to ask her how she pronounces that. But the book is in full swing, the album's in full swing. So let's talk a little bit about Black Labyrinth, shall we? Black Labyrinth now has a release date. Well, first of all, let's talk about the poster. I might sign 100 of those and send those to my web store. I've been selling those at shows exclusively. I sign them and I sell them at shows. I'll be selling them this Saturday night, of course, and in Mexico City and probably at all the other shows. But I think I might send some to the web store. But we're going to talk about merch later. Let's stick to the program. Black Labyrinth now has a release date. That's terrifying. That's terrifying that it has a release date. I can no longer, like, I've been dicking around with this record for 3 years. I've been writing songs and commissioning like horn parts and commissioning string parts and hiring singers and going into the studio with drummers and bass players. And I've been doing it over the course of 3 years because it's very expensive and it's a huge, huge, huge project that requires, like, I mean, you don't just write 20 songs if you want them to be good. I mean, I could write 20 songs today. They'd all suck. Maybe one of them would be okay. If you want to write an album with 20 songs, that's really, really great. And I want this to be my magnum opus. You know, I really am hoping for this to be the best album I ever made. So that takes time to craft art. And then because there's 20 songs, it takes so much time to record all of the tracks. And then, as you probably already know, a lot of the musicians working on the Black Labyrinth are David Bowie's bandmates. His drummer, Sterling Campbell, his bass player, Gail Ann Dorsey, another bass player, Mark Plati. I'm working with two of his guitarists, Jerry Leonard and Earl Slick. Earl Slick started with David Bowie on Station to Station, and he played on Station to Station. He played on Young Americans. He was in the room, if I'm not mistaken, like writing Fame, the song Fame, with David Bowie and John Lennon. Yeah. He goes way back with David Bowie. And then he played on some of like Church of Latter-day Bowie stuff, you know, like Heathen and Reality, and some of those albums, like in the early 2000s. So he's on the album. And there's just Holly Palmer, one of his favorite backing vocalists, is on the album. His pianist, Mike Garson, who played on Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, like he started with him in that tour on the 70s and has played with him pretty much on everything ever since. Mike Garson's on this album. And then there's some non-Bowie people who have joined me. Ray Toro of My Chemical Romance plays guitar on the album. Fantasy songstress Ginny D sings on the album. Steampunk hunk Captain John Sprocket of The Cog is Dead sings on a whole bunch of songs, and the list is just growing of amazing people who are on this album. But this all means it's like herding cats. It's a lot of people, and I pay everybody. I don't ask for favors, so I pay everybody, which means I have to like budget who I can record when as money kind of slowly trickles in. So first of all, thank you to everyone on my Patreon, because you are funding this album. And of course, I also use the money from my live shows, but the album would not happen at all if it wasn't from the patrons on Patreon. So thank you so much for those contributions, because that is what that is what gets me in a room with a guitarist like Earl Slick. Really, and that's what gets me, to record something with a pianist like Mike Garson. So it's because of you, and I greatly appreciate it. Of course, having said all of that, now that there's a release date of June 27th, it'll be 36 years to the day that the film Labyrinth hit theaters, and the Goblin King came sauntering into all of our lives in those very, very tight tights. So it's a momentous occasion to choose. I knew that had to be I was originally saying Halloween 2022. That was originally what I was shooting for, and I was like, no, we got to do June 27th. But that means that now everything has to happen faster, and I honestly don't know how that's going to happen. But it's January, and I can tell you this much: for like maybe a solid year. So I started writing this album like probably just before I met you.
Yeah.
Right? So when I met Mayumi 2.5 years ago, a lot of our time spent together in Mexico was me sitting in a rocking chair with a guitar, kind of like this one, writing songs. This was one of the first ones I wrote, wasn't it?
Yes.
This song.
We were crying.
You're gonna cry?
No, we were crying.
We were crying. This is the craziest story. One of the first songs that I wrote for Black Labyrinth didn't have a name, and I was sitting in a rocking chair, and Mayumi would be in the kitchen cooking dinner, and I just started playing this song, and it went. And I had no lyrics. I just go. La, 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 la. La, 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 da, da, da. La, da, 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 da. La, da, 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 da. And for weeks, I would be doing this, sitting in this rocking chair, working on this song, and we would look at each other, and we'd both be crying. True story. And that song eventually got lyrics, and it eventually came to be called Safe in Your Love. And the very first time I played it publicly, actually, I cheated. I'll tell you. Officially, the first time I played it publicly was to serenade Mayumi at a show in Mexico City at Ilvana, where I'm performing January 30th. So this would have been like my second show there that you saw?
Yeah.
Right? And I invited her up on stage. Now, keep in mind, our very first date ever was like my first show at Ilvana. And so like months later, I'm playing there again. And this time I invited her up on stage and I played her that song. And it was, I think, maybe the first time you heard it with lyrics.
Yeah.
It was the first time she heard it with lyrics. But what she may not know is that I had a little help from friends, because my previous show, the show just before that, was in Dallas at the church. And I asked the audience if I could do like a preview of the song, because I was so nervous I was going to butcher it in Mexico City in front of my... You weren't my fiance yet, were you? Were you my fiance already?
Yeah.
Had you already proposed to me?
Yes. Yes, I think
My ring's in the shop. It actually is. Yeah, so I was so afraid I was going to mess it up that I played it in Dallas like I don't know, the night before, the week before, or something like that. So technically, the very first time I played it was at the church, but officially, the first time I played it was from Miami. But in any case, that's how the songs got written, and that was 2.5 years ago. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
That was 2.5 years ago.
The first show?
No, that song.
Oh yeah.
Like writing that song.
Yes, that song.
A lot of these songs, I was writing 2.5 years ago, and I've just been developing them and working on them, and then going to the studio and recording them with all of David Bowie's bandmates. And as of a solid year, something has happened every single day on Black Labyrinth. Every single day. Like a song's gone out to get a tuba part recorded by Tuba Joe Exley, fantastic tuba player, or a song's gone out to get like a cello part recorded, or I've been in the studio with Sterling Campbell recording drums, or recently we were in the studio with Steve Elson. That's an exciting bit of news. The most recent David Bowie bandmate who has joined the Black Labyrinth was Steve Elson, who, believe it or not, was one of the very first people that I wanted to get, but I couldn't. I was having trouble reaching him. But I knew of Steve Elson back, well, you all did, actually, if you listen to Let's Dance and Modern Love, because on that album, Steve Elson played sax. And he plays that incredibly fantastic baritone sax solo in the song Modern Love. And he had a horn section. It was him and two other fellows. He had a horn section back then called the Borneo Horns. And because of my, I don't know, inexplicable fascination with Indonesia all of my life, and Borneo being an island in Indonesia, I've just always been fascinated by the Borneo horns, and I wanted so desperately to get this guy to play on the album, and at last it has happened. He plays baritone sax on a handful of songs, and he plays flute on I Laugh in the Face of Death, and he plays clarinet on Little White Lies. I might just have to play you a little bit of Little White Lies with Steve Elson's clarinet playing. Okay, so you know me, I'm a storyteller. So when we went into the studio, I said to Steve, this song is about a giant snake. So your job is to be the snake. I'm going to need you to play clarinet. He's a multi-instrumentalist. And he played this. Let's see if I can cue this up. That's Earl Slick on guitar. And here comes the clarinet. Picture a snake. You can picture this guy.
Do you think like me, would you turn and walk away fast? If I told you from whence I came and all the sordid details of my inglorious past, I'd tell you why I'm afraid. Would you leave me for dead, or would you come to my aid? But don't tell me some pretty words, sure to keep you coming my way. I never meant to lie, but there are things we do. Say to get by, little white lies, and see things how good they grow inside.
You get the picture. So Steve Elson has joined the Black Labyrinth, Earl Slick. And like I said, as of about a year now, literally something has happened every single day. Abigail Larson's been working on a page, or Erin Horror has been working on a page, Andrea Art has been working on a page, or there's been a tuba track getting recorded, or a string section getting recorded, or I've been in the studio. And I'm sketching non-stop. Most recently, I have been sketching the Thieves of the Labyrinth. I'm going to show you. Trying not to put my chubby belly in your face. I guess there's really no way around it. Honey, where's my sketchbook? Do you see it? Yeah. Do you see my sketchbook back there somewhere? See if I can.
I found it.
You found it? Is it
Yeah.
like underneath a bunch of stuff?
Don't move it.
Let me move my cocktail. Mm-hmm. This beautiful sketchbook, by the way, it's got a raven on it, was a birthday present when I turned 54, right?
Yeah.
It was a birthday present from my sister-in-law, Emiko Toyoda. What a beautiful present. And it is now completely filled with sketches for the Black Labyrinth. But recently I've been drawing the Thieves of the Labyrinth. Ooh, that's Don Fernando, Keeper of the Map. He's a cursed knight. And let's see, where's Brutus? Got a drawing of, oh, and this guy. This is Virgil von Poach, the organ thief. And, oh, there's another really good Virgil von Poach. I think he looks like Doc Hammer. Oh, here's Brutus. Brutus is mentioned in the song No Honor Amongst Thieves. It says, well, then there's Brutus. He's doing fine. His whole entire village was wiped out in 69. But did he bury him? Ha! Well, no, of course. He stole a sack off someone's back and then he looted every corpse. It's like a giant D&D campaign. It really is. That's Brutus is a troll. And Virgil von Poach is a goblin. And this was the one that we're working on today. This guy, the knight, not the weird little cat. I haven't figured him out. I think his name is Blink Borogrove. But the knight, I haven't figured out a name for him yet. I think his name's Rook something. Larcinius Rook or something like that. Something that makes you think he's a thief, because he is. And then that's Blink Borogrove. You might know the reference. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toes that gear and gimble in the wave, all mumsy with a Borogoves. That's what he is. Anyway, so now you know what a Borogove looks like. Have you ever wondered what they were talking about in Jabberwocky? So anyway, boy, I can talk so much about Black Labyrinth because there's so much. It takes so much. There's so much information. It is a huge musical with elves and orcs and shadow demons and a really kick-ass boss monster at the end. And it, of course, contains what I hope to be my ultimate villain song, a song called The King of Villains, which I've been playing at my shows in recent history. So hopefully you'll come catch me and you'll hear that live. And the last thing I'm going to say about Black Labyrinth is that the only way it's going to continue on the course that it's going is thanks to your contributions on Patreon. So once again, a huge shout out to the patrons. Thank you so much for making this project possible. It is the biggest, baddest thing I've ever made in my life. And I hope that you will enjoy it when it is released June 27th, 2022, with any luck. And now we're going to move on to another topic. Let's talk a little bit about Aurelio Voltaire merch. In recent history, you may have seen these in my web store. Oops. This was the most recent item that was made available in the web store. And as you can see, it is a Christmas stocking. These are so hard to show off. They are black and velvety with black lace and ribbon and this beautiful embroidered bat-shaped V. The pattern, of course, is my Bats and Beasts design. They came in black. Well, they're all black. They came in black and red, black and purple, and black and gray. I do not know if we're going to do these again next Christmas. There are a few of them left in the web store. I know it sounds weird as hell to say go buy something for next Christmas today in February or January. It's weird. But you might want to get them while we still have them because I don't know if we're going to make these again. They were so great. It was such a joy putting Mayumi's presents in here. Tírame el mono.
¿Cuál mono?
El mono. I want to show you what was in here.
Ah, the baby?
Yeah. So this was one of Mayumi's presents, but I suspect it was her favorite present of all the things she got.
I love it.
You see that? It's a Monchichi. I think these things are absolutely hideous.
It's so beautiful.
She loves them.
She's beautiful.
She loves them. Is there a feet inside? Adriano says. No, well, no, there should be, right? If it's like, if I really want to go for Nightmare Before Christmas realness, there should be a foot inside. Maybe I should do that. Just put a rubber foot in there. Anyway, yeah, little pink Monchichi, or as they say in Mexico, Monkiki.
Monkiki.
Okay, Monkiki is gonna fly. Ready?
Yeah.
Flying monkeys.
Ah,
Oh,
put that anywhere.
sorry. Brad bought me Doug Jones Cameo. What? For my day. Look forward to Bold CityCon. Barb, that is so cool. Oh, I love Doug Jones. And I love Cameo. I gotta say, I am now on Cameo, and it has really solved so many issues because I just get so many emails and so many comments, and a lot of people are like, "Hey, can you do a shout out to this person? Can you do a shout out to that person?" And it's like, it's kind of hard to like pull myself away from the work I'm doing for everyone to do something for one person. But then Cameo came along and they invited me to join the platform, and it's been a godsend because it's just so neat and easy. Someone just like goes to cameo.com and they select someone they want a cameo from, and then I get a request and I shoot it with my beautiful background. And when I'm in Mexico, I have a beautiful background in Mexico, the south of the border layer, as it were, the Mansión de Mayumi, right? It's like the lair of Voltaire and the mansion of Mayumi, I guess. But it's a really, really neat way. And I literally just did one. I did a cameo for someone's 40th birthday just before getting on live. It's really, really handy, and people seem to really enjoy it. So it's really nice. So I'm really delighted to hear, Barb, that you got it one from Doug Jones. That's so cool. That's like all of my favorite things in one story. Doug Jones, you and Brad, Cameo, just it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Well, in any case, so that's what's going on with Black Labyrinth. I'm just going to keep my nose to the grindstone. Oh, we had moved on from Black Labyrinth, but mentally I never will, I guess. We're talking about merch. So you saw these, our most recent item in the web store. Like I said, we made very few of them. There's very few left. So you might want to grab one if you're interested in having one. You know what? I mean, it might just be cool. It's a cool decoration one way or the other. You can put presents in here, or you could just hang it. Also in the web store are the Black Labyrinth scented candles. As you can see with the Forest of Shadows base, they're just really, really cool. The base kind of depicts what the enchanted forest of Labyrinth looks like after the shadow has sort of taken over the land. And they're scented. There's presently 4 scents. This is this one. This is a black one called Forest of Shadows, and it smells like a burnt forest. It really does smell like a burnt forest with a hint of black magic. I'm not going to lie. It's a little witchy. And then there's an orange one called Goblin King, which smells like just autumn spices and everything that you love about Halloween. There's a white one called Return of the White Unicorns, which is also something that happens in the book. Spoiler alert, happy ending. And the Return of the White Unicorns has this really just fresh foresty smell. And then there's Valerian. And Valerian is the lead character of Black Labyrinth, and that candle is purple, like a lot of stuff that you see in the lair, and it smells exactly like me. I've been making my own perfume for over a decade, and it took a long time somehow to formulate it for a candle. But if you smell that candle, you will swear you are smelling me, which sounds creepier than it ought to sound. But anyway, I love this base. And those are presently in the web store. There's a bunch of other stuff. Have a lot of masks and gloves, antibacterial mask and glove sets in the web store. And the Globlins, of course. But you've seen those a million times here on Nooseletter, so I'm not going to get into all those. I am going to show you a preview of the next item coming down the pike. I am super excited about these. This is cemetery soap. Can I get a good shot of this? No, it's kind of hard to get a good shot of this. What if I get really close? It kind of won't focus. How close do I have to get? Oh, there we go. This is Cemetery Soap. It says Lair of Voltaire for Dark Side Royalty. And this one is Halloween Dream? Halloween Spice. I think this one's called Halloween Spice. And it smells like Halloween and autumn and just pumpkin spice and everything nice. It's really beautiful. And I think these are coming at the beginning of February. So they come in various colors. There's a black one called Gothic Cloves, which smells like cloves. And there's a white one called Funeral Bouquet, which smells like a funeral bouquet. And there's the orange one, which smells like Halloween. And there's a purple one called Lair, which smells like my Lair fragrance. And that's kind of what's happening with the store. And the last thing I guess we should be talking about is Gothic Homemaking. There's nothing to report on Gothic Homemaking because Black Labyrinth is now going to completely eat my life. And so Gothic Homemaking, which is typically on hiatus around this time of year, it typically comes back around April or June, but I'm just not going to drive myself insane and give myself a premature heart attack worrying about Gothic Homemaking, because Black Labyrinth needs a lot of attention and all of my resources and then some, and all of my attention. So until Black Labyrinth is done, we're just gonna lay low on the Gothic Homemaking. And that's all that there is to report. Man, I talked far longer than I expected to. We are now going to go over here, and I'm going to take off this little, where is my little banner here? We're going to take that off because questions are now, the floor is now open to questions. So if you have burning questions, I do want to express that when I am talking, I typically do not look at the questions because otherwise I'll never, ever stay on track. And so I apologize if I missed anything really important. Quite literally, up until this point, I have pretty much not looked at any comments. So I apologize if I've missed something important. But my attention is now yours. Okay, so here's an interesting question. Ariso Kit asks, hey, Voltaire, if this isn't too much of a question to ask, do you wish you had a better relationship with your family? I personally wish I had a better give and take with family myself. That's a hard one to answer because I had a terrible relationship with my family, as you probably know, which is why I ran away from home as a teenager. I was a runaway teen and came to New York City with, I didn't know anyone, I had no job, I had no money, I had nowhere to go. And that's something you probably shouldn't wish on anyone. And that is how my adulthood started. And it started real fast because you got to grow up real fast when you're a runaway teen. And would I have hoped for it to be a different way? All I can tell you is this. Mayumi, my fiance, has a wonderful family, and she has an incredible relationship with her family. And I find it so hard to understand things that people take for granted. You know, like she's like, let's spend Christmas with my family. And I'm like, why would you want to do that? You know, like really obvious stuff that people would want to do. I don't understand at all, because all I could think about is like trying to get as far away from my family as I can during the holidays, because they're also very problematic. And it's been eye-opening, and I do envy her. And, you know, she tells
your family.
Yeah,
now.
she says they're my family now. She says they're my family now, and it's a really beautiful, beautiful thought. And, you know, and look, we don't see eye to eye on everything. And they probably think I'm super weird. You know, her mother's, you know, her family's religious. You know, when I say religious, they're not super crazy religious, but I'd say safe to say your mother believes in God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she went to church and all that stuff. And, you know, Mayumi, you had a communion and all that, right?
Yeah.
And here comes the devil. Like, literally, like I walk in the front door like, greetings, I have come from the seventh circle of hell to marry your daughter, you know. And they're cool as can be. They're just cool as can be. And like, you know, you saw the book that I was given by my sister-in-law, you know, for my birthday. They don't think like, let's try to make him like us. They're just like, oh, he's really into like bats.
And Mamon, what she made? My mom.
Mamon?
My mom.
You call me a Mamon?
She made you.
Yeah, Mamon.
She made you the stuffing.
Yeah. I mean, I can't pull it off the wall to show you, but like her mother made me this beautiful piece of art She like bedazzles things. She like gets an image and she puts glitter on it and bedazzles them. You know, it's like a very kind of beautiful suburban mom thing to do. And she's making gifts for people and they're like super colorful and super like, you know, friendly and I don't know, normal. And she made one for me and it was a bat. So like it's a level of like love and understanding and support that I never experienced. And I find it really amazing. Like, so now the difficult part of answering the question is, do I wish I had had that? Yeah, that would have been cool, but would I be who I am now? I don't know. So it's kind of a weird toss up, but very, very good question. Sam says, your music is keeping me in positive spirits while my mom's in the hospital. Thank you. Delighted to hear that, Sam. I'm glad I can provide some pleasant distraction. And I hope she is on the mend really quick. I have some musical background. Okay, so Space Cat says, I have some musical background, but I've never written a song. How do I write a song for the first time? You just write a song. There's no rules, you know, like I can write a song right now without picking up an instrument. Okay, let's see. Give me a subject.
Yeah.
Dame un sujeto.
Candle.
Candles. Okay, here's a song. I'm going to write this right now off the top of my head. Seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind. Get it? Because it's like unstable because the wind is blowing. Never knowing who to turn to when the rain set in. I'm kidding. I didn't write that. That's Elton John. If I wrote that, I'd be living in a mansion instead of in this hovel. Can you give me a different subject?
Ocean.
Okay. I went to the ocean and I had so much fun. The sun was shining up above. I laid on the sand and I felt so warm and I took my lover's hand. And that was my trip to the ocean. That's a song. Now, maybe this is a silly reply to your question, but that is literally a song. Doesn't matter how long a song is. Doesn't matter if it rhymes or not. Doesn't matter if it has a verse and a chorus and a verse and a bridge and a chorus and a chorus. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that you put some thoughts in the form of words to a melody. That is literally a song. And I promise you, Space Cat, that if you start making songs like the one I just did about the ocean, just like thoughts that pop into your head, drop in whatever melody comes to mind. If you do that enough, you'll be writing what you think of as real songs. You'll be writing full-on songs. But just like, how do you become a great illustrator? You got to pick up a pencil and you got to start sketching. And the first few sketches are probably going to suck. And it doesn't matter. You have to like just keep whatever it is you want to be, whether it's a writer, a photographer, really anything in the arts. The process is always the same. Do it, do it, do it, keep doing it, wake up and do it before you go to sleep. Just whatever it is, whether it's drawing or songwriting, just do dancing, just do it all the time. And before you know it, you will be great. And if you don't enjoy the process of sketching every day or writing melodies every day or dancing every day, whatever that art form is, if you don't enjoy the process of like doing it all the time, you're probably not cut out to do it at all. So the great irony of it is like to become a great artist, you kind of have to love whatever that art form is. And if you love that art form, you won't even notice that you're doing it all the time because you'll just be entertained like I am. I wake up and I draw stuff. I wake up and I strum on a guitar. Like all day long, I'm doing all sorts of different things. And it never feels like work. It always feels like, I mean, sometimes you hit challenges like, where do I go to with this song? Or I'm stuck on this line, like, where does this story go? I have writer's block. There are challenges, but the process should be fun. So I wish you the very best. Okay. Sacramento. So Max says, hey, Voltaire, I've sent you a donation from your last newsletter. I can't wait to hopefully see your show in Sacramento, if not LA. and I'm making you an art book of the story I'm working on to give you. Oh, it's very sweet. Thank you. And thank you for the donation, Max. Every cent is going to make this big, giant, crazy project, so it's greatly appreciated. And good luck with your own art. Is there a chance you will put an EP of your holiday songs, says Mouse. I would love to be able to put them on holiday Spotify playlist. That's such a great idea, and I really do need to do it. I really need to record Santa Claus is Satan for sure. I think that's a hit. And so many people agree with me. And the funny thing about Santa Claus is Satan is that like it sounds like it's you might assume like, you know, a really sarcastic goth guy wrote it, like myself, but like deeply religious people totally agree with it also. So it's a really interesting song. And I'd love to do that with a big band. And if I did that, it might make sense doing Bunny Apocalypse as well and a few others and doing like a holiday CD like you suggested. Unfortunately, we got Black Labyrinth and then we got the Spanish album, and then we'll think about that. Mexico para 2022, pregunta Calvin. I got a better one for you. Enero 30, 2022. Enero 30, voy a tocar en la Ciudad de México. So, vete a, ¿cómo se dice el website? Mi webo sito. Everybody knows that that's how you speak Spanish. You just throw an O at the end. Vete a mi website y ahí tengo un calendario y hasta se puede comprar boletos ya. So, yeah, Mexico this month. Isn't Black Labyrinth technically a fanfic? Asks Jock It's Life. I don't know. Is it? Who cares? Maybe it is. So what? Doesn't matter. You know, it's art. It's art inspired by another piece of art. What I was careful not to do was to reference anything by name. So how do I explain this? So Jock It's Life. Here's the answer. First of all, I don't care if it is or if it isn't. That part's irrelevant to me. If it's fanfic, it's going to be the biggest, baddest fanfic you've ever experienced if I get my way, if I see it through the way I want to. But that's irrelevant to me. What it really is an exploration of the feelings of an artist about his hero. That's what it is. That's how it started. So when David Bowie died, I decided I wanted to make like a tribute to David Bowie. And I thought it was going to be just like a requiem, like Mozart's Requiem Mass for the Dead. And I started working on a song called The King is Dead. And almost immediately, when I thought David Bowie and I thought King, I thought Goblin King. And then I thought, oh, I think this isn't going to be about David Bowie directly. It's going to be about the Goblin King. I will use that as the vehicle to create this homage to David Bowie. And then it, like, of course, spiraled out of control like anything that I do eventually does, and became this huge, huge, huge story. But at the core of the story is the feelings of a young man, because I was a very young man when I discovered David Bowie, looking up at his idol saying, I want to be him. And that is ultimately what is at the core of this story. Is it fanfic? Maybe. I'm not bothered either way, if it is or if it isn't. So I hope that answers your question. I don't find it offensive if you think it's fanfic, just for the record. I just don't know if it is or if it isn't. And I guess it doesn't really matter to me either way. As long as it's good. I guess that's the point, is that I don't care what it is, as long as it's good. And hopefully you'll like it. John Chadwick says, you've outlived Mozart by 20 years. So you have that on him. Oh, really? Well, do I though? Do I have that on him? Because Mozart was like super famous at the age of 6. So
hello, John.
Yeah. Oh, Mayumi says hello, and thank you for the lovely Christmas card. We put it on our tree. Change question is great. Oh, okay. So Shady says this format, change of questions to the end, is great and really improving the viewing experience. I appreciate that, because I've tried keeping up with the comments and I never ever get through the stuff that is important for me to tell you during a video newsletter. So I hope you guys appreciate it too. I hope you guys dig the format. You were a heck of a shoe salesman, though. I don't know if Anna Lovecraft is talking to me about that, because I was a shoe salesman when I was 17. I worked in a posh department store. They fired me because I dressed funny. True story. It was like a posh department store, but ultimately, when I say it was really normal, it was like really, really, really boring, mundane, and normal. And it was the 80s, and I was like starting to act out. I was starting to dress like a member of Duran Duran, and I had like bleached my bangs blonde, and I got like a big crucifix earring, and they were like, it's not the right look for this place. And they were like, we will sell you our clothing that we sell here for you to wear at cost so that you can dress appropriately. And I was like, I'd never wear these clothes. And they're like, well, you got to do something because you can't come dressed like this evil pirate guy. Like, you have to look professional. And so I saw a photo shoot of Duran Duran, my favorite band at the time, wearing black leather tuxedos. And I thought, what could be more elegant than a tuxedo? So I bought a black leather tuxedo, and I showed up at work in a black leather tuxedo with a white bow tie. I still don't remember if I was wearing a shirt, though. But I know that I was wearing a black leather tux and a white bow tie and black leather pants. And I was quickly dispatched of. I was quickly fired. Oh, well. But, I ended up in New York City, and it all worked out. Okay, so Horace says, I'll be seeing you Saturday. Haven't seen you since like 2011. You used to hang around the merch table after shows. Do you still do that? I have a gift for you and I want a picture. Well, if anybody who's been to any of my shows in the last 20 years knows that that is a thing. I run my own merch booth. People ask me, why do you do that? Why do you run your own merch? Get someone to do it. It's like, yeah, but then I wouldn't meet everybody who came out to support. It's the very best possible way to meet people who bought a ticket and came out and are supporting what I do. And I musicians, I say this all the time, musicians have the wrong idea. A lot of them do. They think like, I'm a star and you owe me something. No, the musician owes the fan. The fan is the one keeping the lights on at the Lair of Voltaire by buying a ticket to the show, by buying a song, by coming to the merch booth and buying a poster or something. It is the musician who owes the fan. And I have always believed that, and Cthulhu helped me. I will always believe that. And so I run my own merch booth, and I get to meet the people who come out. And I find it funny. Look, I get it. There's a lot of reasons to sell like meet and greet experiences, especially with this whole switch to like streaming where people don't actually buy the music. And I've heard all the arguments, and I get it. And I totally understand. And I have promoters coming up to me all the time. They're like, hey, so we want to sell like a VIP ticket where like people get to meet you. And I'm like, oh, no, those people are going to be very, very upset if they pay like $100 or $500 or whatever it is. And they come to the show and see that I meet everyone. So the meet and greet experience, while it would be nice to make a few extra ducats, it doesn't work for me because, yes, Horace, I will be there at the merch booth. So come by and come get that photo and say hello and allow me to thank you for coming to the show. So Getty says, I got your candle holder for Christmas. Oh, amazing. Despite not owning any candles. Crap. Should have probably gotten you a candle to put in it. Maybe they thought it came with the candle. Who knows? So until then, my Plague Doctor plush has a perch. Oh, that's cool. So you got a toy in there instead. I mean, it's just it's such a cool little base. You could probably use it to as a trinket dish as well, like to put jewelry in or your keys. Just be careful because it is fragile. It is very, very intricate and fragile. Let's see. Okay, so Monty, the marionette, says, do you think you'd do work with Maynard Keenan from A Perfect Circle or Tool if given a chance? He has a great, hauntingly beautiful sound to his music. I'll be honest with you, I am not familiar with his music, but I'll have to check it out. But, sure. I remember the Tool music videos. People brought up the Tool music videos from like, I guess the 90s or early 2000s to me all the time because I started out as a stop motion animator and they made really cool stop motion videos. So if he's of that mindset, chances are we'd probably get along pretty well. Mira, me dicen, Aurelio, hermano, ya eres mexicano. It's true, Brenda. Es verdad, Brenda, pues tú sabes cómo es. Nosotros mexicanos nacimos donde nos dan la rechingada madre nacer. Ganas. Madre. La rechingada. Gana.
No, eres mexicano,
¿Eh?
Lo bueno es que ya eres súper mexicano.
Nosotros mexicanos nacimos donde nos da la rechingada gana. Así es. That's my new saying. It's an appropriated quote. I did not make that up, but I am embracing it. For those who don't speak Spanish, it was a famous actress who was not Mexican, right? She's not Mexican. She's like from Colombia, I think.
Who?
La que dijo ese dicho.
Ah, pero no sé quién es.
I know, Varga. I don't remember.
Who?
Varga? I don't remember.
Chabela? Vargas?
Yeah. Chabela Varga.
Ah, yeah.
I think it was her.
Yeah.
It was somebody who was asked, you know, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what the question was, but she said, we Mexicans are born wherever the hell we feel like being born, which is a way of saying she wasn't Mexican, but she sees herself as Mexican, which is a beautiful, beautiful concept. Okay. Adidas Gangster the Gamer says, hey, Voltaire, you might have gotten this question before, but I think they're saying, is there a sequel to Hate Lives in a Small Town or possibly another Gothic country album? I would say probably not. I really enjoyed making that album, and I think that album's really solid and has some really great songs on it. And if anything proved that my music is not that different from country, did I say that out loud? I think I said that out loud. Like when you strip it all away, like country, old country, I don't mean the new crap. I mean like really, really traditional old country. Used to be dark and funny simultaneously, and about the truth and about like the irony of life and the pain of life and the beauty of life all wrapped up into one and told in story format, which is pretty much what I've always done. So I really enjoyed making that album, but it was my least selling album of all time. So I don't think I'd make another one. So Tristan says, I understand that, Voltaire. I had a stepfather who beat me often. I do not understand having a father who is a good person. Yeah, I had a really hard time with that concept. So my stepfather was very, very, very abusive, and I hated him. And then I was suddenly faced with, like, when I was about to have a child, I was like, oh my God, how do I do this? How do I be a father? Like, I had no guidance. I had absolutely no example of what a good father might be. I really had to like work that one out. And what the philosophy I ended up going with was just like, I'm just going to treat him like a human being. Like, I'm just going to treat him like with a tremendous amount of decency and respect, which led to some really odd situations because I literally just treated him like another human being, my son, that is. So we had conversations that I might have with like a 40-year-old, you know. I just always told him the truth. And I never lied to him. I never sugarcoated stuff. And I always gave him the benefit of the doubt. And I always advocated for him, you know, like if there was trouble at school, I always advocated for him, you know, like I just tried to be a really good friend. And of course, being a father, I did have to create boundaries, and there had to be some kind of like, you know, some kind of like, this is how the world works and you can't cross this line. Otherwise there will be, you know, there will be consequences. There had to be some kind of discipline and some kind of boundaries, but yeah, I didn't know what a good father was either. I had to figure that one out on my own. It was rough, but I think it worked out okay. And he turned out pretty amazing. So I'm very proud about that. Okay. How was Three Kings Day for you and Mayumi? Did you celebrate and exchange gifts yesterday, or did you just do it on Christmas? Asks Crimson Serenity. We just did Christmas.
Because we're in America.
Because we're in America at the moment. We had this conversation literally just today or last night. I think we were walking home from the supermarket last night. We're having that conversation, and I was so befuddled. I was like, well, hold on a second now. When it comes to gift giving, like, do Mexicans do it on New Year's, Christmas Eve or Christmas? She was like, both. And then also Three Kings Day. And I was like, where do people find the money for all this?
The Three Kings arrived to Mexico.
Yeah. Three Kings arrived to Mexico?
Yes.
When? Like now?
Yes.
Just today.
Yesterday.
Today. Anyway, so she basically told me that her family only, like, they picked 2 of the holidays, and that's when they gave gifts. And I am of the understanding that people just kind of go with whatever works for them. So, I experience this all the time where people are like, well, Mexicans XYZ. It's like, no. Mexicans are human beings. Not all Mexicans are exactly the same. And that is like I hate to say it, it's kind of a racist concept. I had the same problem with Cubans. Somebody said to me one day, like, you're not Cuban enough. I know Cubans and they don't speak the way you do and blah, blah. I was like, oh, wow, I'm not Cuban enough. Oh, okay. Cubans are people, There's like a huge spectrum of how people behave and what people believe. I had another problem once. Somebody was giving me crap about Day of the Dead on some social media site, and they were like, Day of the Dead is the most sacred holiday to Mexicans, and you make light of it. And I'm like, I was literally in a graveyard on a Day of the Dead watching people do lines of cocaine off a tombstone. Like, it's not what you saw in Coco, okay? Some people see it that way, and some people see it a different way, because Mexicans aren't all one person. They are just like everybody else in the world. There are some that believe this, and there are some that believe that. There are some that do this, and there's some that do that. So the generalizations, they get a little weird sometimes. So anyway, yeah, I think some Mexicans celebrate Christmas, some celebrate the Three Kings, some celebrate Christmas Eve. People just kind of mix and match and do whatever works for them, as it should be. Live your life the way it works for you. Don't worry about everybody else. Raya says, gonna try to see you again at your Georgia show coming up in March. How do you stick to working hard under pressure? Because I don't have a choice. So I like living indoors and eating regularly. And this is what I do for a living. So I have two choices. I can work hard and continue living indoors and eating regularly, or I can slack and I don't have a boss and I don't have a paycheck that comes at the end of the week. So then I would just not be able to go to the grocery store that week. So that's one reason for why I work so hard. The other reason for why I work so hard is that I love it. I love what I do. So like, as I said earlier, it sometimes doesn't even feel like work. I mean, when I'm doodling, and think about this, I literally just spent this week doodling imaginary thieves from an imaginary labyrinth. And it's so much fun. I'm like, one of them's going to be a goblin knight. And one of them's going to be an ent. He's going to be like a tree guy, but he's going to be wearing striped stockings. Like, it's just, it's playtime. It's playtime. The work has to get done. It is hard work ultimately, but getting to do this is an absolute privilege. And I never, ever, ever stop being appreciative to the people who support what I do, because I get to wake up and draw goblins, if that's what's on the agenda today. And if I don't want to draw goblins, I just don't. I just write songs about a goblin instead. There's a lot of goblins in my life at the moment, and I'm gobbling them up. All right, moving on. Excuse me, I've been sick for a while. Still a little bit new. We've both been on the mend now for a while, but there's just little residual nagging cough, like a frog in my throat kind of thing. You remind me of the Babe, says Casper. Which Babe? The Babe with the power. Anyone? Tristan says, I totally understand when Voltaire speaks of having to grow up fast. Oh yeah. When you're a runaway teen, man, you grow up real fast, whether you like it or not. Darren says you should throw your old life away and get raised by bats. It's precisely what I did. I think I must be like really far behind. Oh, Jalamprek says, do you know Doc Hammer? We grew up together, practically, in the New York City goth scene. He was in a band called Requiem in White, and I wasn't a musician at the time. I was a stop-motion animator. So yeah, we've known each other for decades. He calls me his nemesis. I don't know why he hates me so much, but I'm apparently his nemesis. I have a theory that he based the character of the monarch on me, but that's just a theory. He says it's not true, of course, because he hates me. But that's the story. That's the story. I don't mind him at all. I see him. I always say hi. We chit chat, but I don't know, for whatever reason. I think it's because, and I had to show Mayumi photos of him. She was like, I don't understand what people used to confuse you guys. How is it possible? You guys look nothing alike. And then I showed her pictures of what we both looked like when we were 20. And she was like, oh, and we did look a lot alike when we were skinny little kids. The difference is he stayed a skinny little kid and I turned into a big fat man.
Handsome man.
Okay. No, he's like a svelte, handsome vampire type of
No,
guy.
you.
Well, that's very kind. But I'm like, I don't know. I expanded. I like
Because you go to the gym.
gamma radiation, folks. Stay away from the gamma radiation. I turned into a Hulk. So these awkward silences is just because I am scanning through comments looking for ones that are in question form. Oh, okay, here's one. Adriano asks, is there any chance of you covering one of Labyrinth's original songs on the upcoming album? Very, very good question. Originally, the very last song on the album was going to be Magic Dance. But now I'm leaning towards the very last song on the album being a medley. That includes Magic Dance, Underground. What else? Maybe As the World Falls Down. But yeah, now I'm kind of thinking it might be a little medley. But it's a song that hasn't, I don't have a note of, not a single note of yet. So I'm not focusing on it. It's very, very important that I finish the 17 songs that I have in some form of undress, that I finish those first before I move on to the remaining 3. But there is a possibility that the last song on the album will be a medley of some of the songs from Labyrinth. Good question. Uh-huh. Penny Dreadful says, I just want to thank you for this. Instantly made my week better. Lost 2 friends suddenly last week, and my best friend was fired. Wow. Just thank you. Looking forward to Black Labyrinth. Thank you for joining us on our silly little live stream. I hope it is. I'm delighted when the nonsense that I do provides even a short distraction from life's worries. So thank you for letting me know. I always appreciate that. And you're always welcome around these parts if you need to escape for a little while into a world of complete nonsense, which is pretty much what the Lair of Voltaire is. It's spooky nonsense, but it's nonsense. Rithian Black says, good morning, Voltaire. I was curious, what do you think of the oldest item? What do you think is the oldest item or thing that you own? For me, it's a tarot card deck from 1909, gifted to me by my ex-Wiccan mother. I have no idea. I think the oldest thing in here is me. The oldest thing that I own is a skull from 1967, and it's in my head. I really don't think there's nothing old in here, right? Nothing older than, I think 20 years is yesterday. Orville. Well, Orville came into my life in 2007.
But he's old. Very old.
Well.
Or he might be older.
Orville. We're going to say Orville Dedenbacher. I've moved a couple of times, and I've had situations where everything I owned was thrown out for one reason or another. Literally everything I owned had to be thrown away. And so I don't know. I don't have anything super old. I think the oldest thing in here is probably a sculpture that I made that somehow survived a couple of moves, that sitting on my windowsill. It's made out of Super Sculpey. It was a candelabra that's shaped kind of like a goat-headed creature. And I made that thing in the early 90s when I was so poor and I didn't have a job. So I liberated some Sculpey from a place where I had been working on stop motion stuff, and I made this sculpture. And then while making molds for them, I liberated a little silicone and I made a mold of it. And I used to cast these things in plaster. I bought a $5. The only investment was a $5 bag of plaster. I bought a $5 bag of plaster, and I would cast these candle holders, and I'd sell them to local goth shops back when there were goth shops. And that's how I ate for a while. That's probably the oldest thing in here. And that would be from like the early 90s. Adidas Gangster says, well, in your own words, sir, your first work will suck. How do I know? Because my first work sucked. Yeah, look, okay, so I've gotten like mildly obsessed with watching clips of like X Factor, America's Got Talent, like the really worst ones. And there's a reason why they fascinate me, because I don't derive any joy from watching someone like make a fool of themselves on stage, or I don't derive any joy from watching anybody like fail miserably. But I find these clips fascinating because they shine a light on like a really prevalent human thought process, which is so wrong. It's so wrong. And one of them that I watched recently, like Simon Cowell asks this woman, she's like in her 40s, and he's like, what brings you here today? She's like, well, I've been waiting for this moment all my life. I've been preparing for this moment all my life. He's like, wow. What have you been doing to prepare for this moment all your life? She's like, well, I've just been preparing for this moment all my life. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, on the edge of my seat wondering like, well, this is going to be a great audition if she's about to sing and she's been preparing for this. And she said since she was 3. So for like 40 something years, she's been preparing for this moment. And then she couldn't sing at all. Like she couldn't carry a tune. She was like completely out of key. She had like no stage presence. And I'm just sitting there going, how does this happen? How does this happen? That a human being could like be so deluded as to think that they are preparing for like to become a star. And they think, and I'm not mocking anyone here, this fascinates me because people think this, and I encounter people like this all the time. And it's not like I didn't go down that road at some point as well, which is probably why it fascinates me. They think that the thing keeping them from being famous and being successful is somebody giving them like an audience. And they're going to be like, okay, now is your moment to become famous. Now just do the thing and then you will become famous. And what these people don't understand is that that's just not how it works. It's just not how reality works at all. If you want to be successful at something, you don't wait 40 years for someone to say, okay, now's your chance to prove yourself. No, what you do is what I said earlier. You do the thing every day. And in the case of being a singer, it is imperative that not only do you sing every day, but I could sit here at the Aurelio Voltaire and sing every single day and honestly not know if I was good or bad because there's no one to tell me. And now there's people who like sing around their family, and their family's like, you have such a beautiful voice, because they're their family and they're supportive, or their friends are like, oh man, I love going to karaoke with you. You have such a good voice. But that also doesn't tell you if you're good or bad. What tells you if you're good or bad is doing the thing in front of an audience. So in the case of singing, like what that woman thought she was doing, like she thought she was preparing for 40 years. She was waiting for 40 years. She didn't know preparing. The preparing part is doing the thing. Waking up in the morning and drawing every day. Wake up in the morning and writing every day. Getting your camera and going outside and taking photographs every day. Like that's how you prepare. And then if you want to really know if you're good or bad, you must share your work. So if you're a writer, you put it up on the internet and see what people say. You put your drawings on the internet, on DeviantArt, and you see what people say. If you're a singer, you get up on stage and you sing. And trust me, from experience, I can tell you, you're going to bomb the first few times, because how can you, like, when you go to get heart surgery, you're not like, I want my heart operated on by somebody who's dreamed of doing this all their life and they're finally getting an opportunity. That's not the guy you want operating on your heart. You want somebody who's operated on 1 million hearts already. It's not that different with being a musician. And so when I say that your first work is probably going to suck, I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm being honest, like you don't get good at something by not doing it. You get good at something by doing it and going, okay, there's a lot of room for improvement here. and you do it again, and you're like, okay, that's a little bit better. And you do it again, and you just keep doing the thing, whatever that thing is. I've lost focus. You just keep doing the thing until you get better and better and better at it. And then there comes a point where you start sharing it. And people tell you this is terrible. And some of those people, they just do it because they're trolls and they have nothing better to do. If a preponderance of people don't care for it, it needs improvement. If a preponderance of people care for it, you're probably good. And if a few people here and there are jerks, that's their problem. That's not your problem, you know. But I'm rambling, probably, hopefully not incoherently. But the point is, getting good at anything, nobody needs permission to become a singer or to become a writer or to become a photographer or to become an actor. Sitting around waiting for that moment where somebody says that you suddenly are this thing is just not how it's done. You get out there, you do it every single day. And eventually, believe it or not, people will be like, oh yeah, Mike, he's a photographer. How do you know that? Because every time I see him, he's taking photographs. That's it. That's literally the secret. That's literally the secret. How do I become a writer? Write all the time. Right to the point where people look at you, they're like, that's Sally, the writer. How do you, have you written her stuff? No, but she's always writing. And that's how you know someone's a writer. Wow. All right. Enough. And I'm going to get off my high horse here. I hope that's helpful. I hope I don't just sound like I'm a blithering idiot. But that really is how it works. Is it this June for Black Labyrinth? Beautiful Darkling asks. Yes. Terrifyingly enough. And I think, all right, hold on. What is it? Goldeny says, Mr. Voltaire, you effing rock. Thanks for being so awesome. Thank you for your help and for your support. And thanks for sticking around and listening to me blather endlessly about how to be a successful artist when I'm only a mildly successful artist. Oh, the hubris. The hubris. What? Hold on a second. This is a really strange one.
¿Quieres tus lentes?
¿Cómo? No, it's just I'm having trouble understanding this one. Speaking of process being fun art medium, I walked in for a child that had been drawing since they were 15 months old and died at 6. My art style atrophied. How to make drawing not an act of mourning. I don't understand entirely what's being said here. Maybe that's a typo. I don't know what I walked in means, but maybe that's a typo. But that's trauma. I mean, this is a really unfortunate situation. I'm very, very sorry that happened to you, but that's trauma. That happens to people for all sorts of different reasons. In this particular case, something that you enjoyed doing was being done by somebody who was a child who died at a tragically young age, and now you probably feel guilty. You know, and I don't want to become a psychiatrist. I don't want to sit here and like start analyzing people mentally. But that to me sounds like survivor guilt. Like the thing that you love doing, you feel that the fact that you get to keep doing it is unfair because somebody died very, very young who enjoyed doing it. And that's something you got to switch your gears to thinking that you're celebrating that person by continuing to draw. But I'm very, very sorry to hear about that experience. That's really, really terrible. Twilight was inspired by Gerard Way. Well, what? Okay. Cats and Crepe says Twilight was inspired by Gerard Way. I'm obviously jumping into the middle of a conversation there, but who can say? I can see a lot of people. You look, hey man, if I was writing vampire novels, I might write one inspired by Gerard Way too. He's one handsome young fellow. The first poster I saw of David Bowie was a blacklight poster in the 70s. I said, she's pretty. Oh my God. And they told me that it was a guy. Always a love for David, says Barb. That's so funny. He's very androgynous, that's for sure. Very androgynous. All right. Well, I think. Oh wait, what's this? ¿Planeas visitar el Real Under? So Jamie asks if I plan to visit the Real Under, which is a goth club in Mexico City. We actually just went when we were there in December. They've moved. So maybe I should. Oh well, the question's in Spanish, so let me answer it in Spanish. Fuimos Jaime, fuimos al Real Under en diciembre cuando estábamos en la Ciudad de México y muy entretenido. Vimos a Lord Fair y tuvimos un tiempo muy bueno. Puede ser que regresamos mientras estamos ahí. ¿Por qué no, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we might return while we're in Mexico, when we're in Mexico again. So I don't scroll as quickly as I probably, I don't scroll anywhere near as quickly as the questions and the comments come in. So I apologize if I'm like super, super far behind. Sunny Valentine says, hey, Voltaire, thanks for streaming. Super excited for the soaps. Any updates on releasing the Lair fragrance? It's dead in the water. I mean, you know, I wouldn't say it's never happening, but Sunny, unfortunately, like I said in past newsletters, they had trouble making the bottle the way I wanted the bottle to be. And then the whole thing just like ground to a halt. So I would say, let us try to make some cool things. So we're making the soap. I got another item that's really, really cool. I can't tell you about it yet, but it's really, really awesome. And if it takes off, and then I will want to revisit that conversation about making the Lair perfume. But for the time being, it's just kind of like off the list of stuff that we're doing. The Crafty Goddess says, I freaking love Duran Duran. Nick Rhodes ruined me ruined men for me in the best way possible. Another very pretty chap. Another very pretty chap. I have some pictures of myself from 1984 where I look like the bastard love child of John Taylor and Nick Rhodes. And P.S., their new record was quite nice. Their new record, Future Past. If you haven't heard it already, check it out. There's a song on the what do you call it? The extended version of the record, which is called Laughing Boy, which makes me cry. It's really, really beautiful. I think they're in really, really good form on this most recent album. So if you're a Duran Duran fan, or even if you're not, check out their most recent album. What if you did a video at the National Museum of the Dead in Aguascalientes? Asked Roxana. I haven't made it to Aguascalientes, but if I did, I probably would film there, because when I went to Guanajuato on what was supposed to be kind of like a romantic vacation, spent a lot of that time filming mummies. Sorry, that's how I roll. But yeah, I'll have to check that out. And I'm reaching like somewhere. I'm getting to the part of the comments that is more or less. Oh no, I'm like still half an hour behind. I'm doing my best here, folks. I'm bad at this. So Janet, my old pal Vixen, says, hey, Volty, miss you. Do you remember the first time you performed on stage? Oh, I'll never, ever forget that. I will never, ever forget that. I performed at a club called Den of Thieves just down the street, literally right down the street from Mercury Lounge, where I'll be performing on Saturday. And I was terrified. For those of you who are new at anything, no, I sit here giving advice. I seem really cool and confident. Yeah, that's because I have like a decades of experience. But it wasn't always that way. My very first show, I took the stage with a guitar to play When You're Evil, Anniversary, Underground, Ex-Lover's Lover, Raven's Land, and maybe 3 or 4 others. I had been playing the acoustic guitar for 3 months, and I was self-taught. I literally had never taken a class, didn't know how to read music. I just wrote these songs. I got to show you something. This is how I played the guitar at my first show. This is a G chord, but this is how I played a G chord then. I literally had to place one finger at a time. This concept of playing the guitar where you can go G to C to D to G, that's decades of, muscle memory My fingers just know where to go. But at my very first show, I literally was building each chord one note at a time. Like Ex-Lover's Lover. I wait for the day when I finally defile the bodies of my ex-lovers' lovers. I'll high to the sky. Bodies of my... That's probably how it went. And I was terrified. And I'll tell you a funny story about that night. Oh, P.S. I was friends with Richard Butler, the lead singer of the Psychedelic Furs. So there was like rock royalty in the room for my very first performance, because I apparently have no shame whatsoever. And I played The Ghost in You by the Psychedelic Furs because I have no shame, apparently. I played it very poorly, but I played it. And I was on stage, and this is a true story. You're not going to believe this. I had diarrhea for a week before the show. True story. I know it sounds like hyperbole. You know when people are saying like, I'm so nervous, I'm shitting in my pants? Well, I literally had diarrhea for a week. I thought like I had a bug or something, but it wouldn't go away, and eventually realized I was just that nervous. I was just so nervous that I was going to be on a stage singing these songs, playing guitar for the first time in my life, that I literally had diarrhea for a week. And then I got on stage and I started playing, and 2 songs in, I noticed that my hands are shaking. And a miraculous thing happened. Like I finished the first song, I might have made it through the second song, and then I looked at my hands and my hands were shaking. And I wasn't even thinking, I just thought, I was thinking out loud, and I said, oh my God, my hands are shaking. Do I have any reason to be this nervous? But the mic was there and everyone heard. And suddenly everyone started applauding. And I don't know if you've ever seen a comedian dying on stage, but like a comedian will get up on stage with a bunch of prepared material, and they're telling jokes, and they're bombing, and they're sweating, and the audience is so nervous and so like anxious and so cringy for them, and like, oh my God, this is like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm watching this man die on stage. And then all of a sudden the comedian will say something like, literally, like very honestly, off the cuff, like, these jokes seem so funny at home. And everyone bursts out laughing. That's honesty. That's honesty. That's someone not doing rehearsed material. That's someone being honest. And everyone gets that. Everyone's been there. And the audience burst out laughing, right? So I had a similar experience. My hands were shaking. I was like, do I have any reason to be this nervous? And everyone just started applauding. And the nerves kind of went away. And I learned at my very first show, and I'm so lucky because most artists never learn this. And some of them learn it very, very late in life. I learned it at my very first show. The most valuable thing that you have to offer on stage is honesty, is literally being yourself.
Nothing.
Are you reading comments and laughing? It really is true. And that's why when I make mistakes, I don't pretend I didn't make a mistake. I'm like, whoops, I made a mistake. And then like I shine a light on the mistake that I made. And we talk about the mistake. And then I like power through and try to do better. So yes, Janet, I remember the first show I ever did like it was yesterday. And I shan't ever forget it. And I hope I never do. It's humbling. I have come a long way. Bruno says, hey there, man. Me and my girlfriend love your songs. Thank you, Bruno. Thank you both for listening. Thank you for answering my question. Says Horace, I'll see you Saturday, I'm guessing. Yeah. Chavela Vargas says Hotzo. Chavela Vargas. She was Costa Rican. So Daniel Rosas is adding to the story before I was quoting someone, and he said that the woman who made that famous Mexican quote about how Mexicans are born wherever they want to be born was Chavela Vargas, and she was Costa Rican, in fact.
Amor, vas muy atrás.
I know, honey. I'm half an hour behind because I care, and I literally read every single one, and it just like it couldn't possibly keep up with the speed at which they come in. Deadbeat says, Voltaire, I had recently had a baby bat. Oh, a baby bat. I thought I meant literally a baby bat. And I named him Aurelio because you're a hero and deep inspiration of mine. Thank you for existing and gracing this world with your Gothic royalty, says Deadbeat. Thank you. I am honored. Thank you so much, and very best of luck to you and your baby bat. A toast. All right, so now, all right, so C. Gooch says, I love when you speak Spanish in the streams. Sometimes I don't recognize my progress in my Spanish lessons, but the longer I study, the more I understand you, and it's like I get a bonus prize. It's really cool. Learning another language is always a good thing. Being able to go somewhere and talk to people in their own language, I find extremely gratifying, and I find that people really, really appreciate it. I don't think I can read this one without my glasses. So let's, oh no, these aren't my glasses. No, let me, here they are. There we go. Grandpa's got new glasses. Let's see. Iliamiati CXV says, any plans to come to Australia? Loved you since Adventure Quest Worlds. Not presently. I toured Australia a whole bunch of times. The promoters may have lost their shirts because it's very, very expensive, even with one musician, to bring them all the way to Australia. And then you have to fly from city to city because none of the cities are like close enough to drive. And so there really just needs to be like a really big demand. So as soon as there's a big demand, I will be back. Special kind of angry. Yep, that's true. Do you have any funny fan stories? Oh gosh, do I have any funny fans? I mean, I'm sure I have millions of funny fan stories, but can I think of any off the top of my head? I don't know that I can. I'm gonna have to think about that. Hey Voltaire, you ever wear a cape? Yes.
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 Christopher Beavers asks. Yes, I know. And you know how I know that I own a cape? Because while I was on tour, someone stole my cape and wore it to a Halloween party. Somebody who's like 2 feet shorter than me and dragged my cape all over creation. That's how I know I own a cape.
That's me.
It is a Maleficent cape. It's like a black hood, and then inside it's a purple satin. And I used to wear it when I used to do this Maleficent, like gender-bending cosplay. And I guess I threw it in the closet and haven't seen it in a while, but someone, while I was playing a show somewhere, apparently wore it to a Halloween party.
It kept me warm.
It kept you warm. I'm so delighted to hear that. It better not be dirty. Did you? She's just so much shorter than me, and that cape is like down to my ankles, so I fear what the inside looks like now. Were you holding it at least when you were walking?
Mm-hmm.
Were you holding it like this?
Yeah.
She says, yeah. I don't know if that's true. Any tips on making it and living on your own? That's so general. There's like a million things that I think could be said. Any tips on making it and living on your own? Well, don't quit your day job. I now sound like somebody's dad saying that, but I am somebody's dad. And I would say, you know, I was able, oh, my hair just went out of place. Number 37 is now officially out of place. And now it's back in place. I was able to become the artist that I eventually became because I had a day job. Now, my day job happened to be pretty cool. I was a stop motion animator, and I was like animating and directing stuff for MTV, but it was nonetheless a day job. Like I had to go to the studio and I had to animate what they told me to animate. But it was because I had that I was able to like pay rent and I was able to feed myself that allowed me to explore these other things like drawing comic books and writing songs. So don't diminish the concept of having a day job because that is very useful. And speaking of stop motion animation, Monty says, I grew up with your stop motion animations. They were a real trip to watch at that young age. Thank you. They're very short, but memorable, I hope. And are we getting any closer to the end here? No, I'm like perpetually half an hour away from the end. So I'm going to have to start scanning. Adelante con Black Labyrinth, says El Ranger Engineer. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support, and I hope to get it done in time. Do you wish that Netflix had contacted you for the role of Jaskier in The Witcher? Never seen The Witcher. Someone just recently sent me like a playlist of some songs. I'm guessing that might be who you're talking about. This like bard. Hey man, of course I would love for Netflix to hire me to do anything, but I'm just not that cool and not that famous, so they don't think of me. But maybe someday, who knows? If I keep at it, we'll see. Natasha Richardson. Bye Voltaire and Mayumi. It's always fun. I probably left a long time ago, so I apologize because I'm so far behind on the comments, but thank you. Thank you for sticking around as long as you did. If you do As the World Falls Down, says Lapis, I would die instantly. Well, then I'm definitely not doing it. No one wants you to die instantly. We'll see. I might too. We'll see. We'll see. No one wants you to die. These live streams became part of my quarantine, says Katie Pryor. Happy hour when my quarantine happy hour when this all first started. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Mayumi the Cackle.
What's a cackle?
Cackle. Oh, how do I explain cackle? This is all day long at the Lair Voltaire. It's like this. Words that I don't know in Spanish. Here we go. Cackle in Spanish.
In Spanish, you would say cacareo.
Cacareo.
Am I laughing?
Yes. Cacareo. It's a cackle.
Okay.
Dear Voltaire, I'm an assistant nurse and I play your music on weekends when I am both on acting, cook and med tech. My patients love you. Oh no, you're subjecting the patients to my music. It might make them worse. I'm delighted to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Are you going to be playing anywhere close to San Antonio, Texas? Nothing is presently booked, Matthew, in Texas, but that can change at any time. I did try to book a public Halloween show in San Antonio, and it just, nobody seemed to be interested, or maybe it was because the pandemic, who knows. I did do a private show in San Antonio in Halloween, but I do hope to do a public show at some point. Sorry to ask this again. Where can I purchase the soap? I want to order it while it's fresh in my memory. Unfortunately, Thorn Mallow 1, it is not available yet. It's still like on a boat somewhere. So hopefully February 1st. And there should be a link in the video description for where my store is. So it'll be in my web store. And that's down there somewhere. But yeah, I don't think we'll have it till February. Adriano says, not a question, just want to say that you've beaten Duran Duran, the Beatles, and Bowie in my Spotify retrospective. Holy smokes. That's an honor. That is, I am humbled. Lapis says, ¿Cuándo harás un cover de No One Mourns the Wicked or Defying Gravity? When will you do a cover of those songs? Never, because while I love me the wicked, I can't sing any of those songs. They're way out of my range. But the very first song on the Black Labyrinth is inspired by the opening song in Wicked. So hopefully you'll see the comparison there. But I don't do anything challenging in that song. I leave that to the choir. I would love seeing Voltaire in Ecuador, says Michael Bishop. Performing, it would be like a dream. It would be a dream. I would love to do it. And when the Spanish album comes out, who knows? It might just happen. Okay. Okay. A lot of these are comments as opposed to questions, so I'm trying my very best to kind of sift through to find the ones. Yeah, when you visit the Real Under in this year. Oh, I covered that one, yeah. Will you be making a making of video for the new album? As a musician, it would be very interesting to see you working in the studio. Victor asks, yes. If you follow my Instagram, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff on my Instagram. But yes, I will be making a making of. I have filmed, Bowie's drummer, Sterling Campbell, extensively in the studio. And I filmed Steve Elson, the sax player, extensively in the studio. And several other, Earl Slick, the guitarist, Jerry Leonard. So I have a lot of behind-the-scenes footage, and of myself, of course. So yes, there will absolutely be a behind-the-scenes video at some point. Great question. Thank you for asking. Calvin says, so do you have some bad demos? I don't know if I have bad demos, because I'll tell you that, like, while my first show was probably really quite awful, I do know what quality is. And when you're recording, you have the benefit of doing things again and again and again to get to a point where things are good. So as far as like actual demo, my actual demos are pretty good. In fact, I had a demo eventually. Originally, my band was going to be called Kawe Kanem, which means beware of the dog in Latin. And I released those on YouTube. You can find my demos for my very first songs ever right here on YouTube. Just look for Cave Canem is how it's spelled. The Cave Canem demos. It's When You're Evil, Ex-Lover's Lover, Underground, a few others. And no, they're solid because, you know, I have the benefit of doing things over and over again when you're recording something. Now, that's not to say I don't have a box of cassettes with me warbling out of tune and singing all sorts of terrible, awful, really stupid songs, because I do have boxes of stuff like that. I wouldn't call them demos, but yeah, I do have boxes of, because when I don't know, you know, I don't have the words yet, I just like hum them like, another place, I'm in your face. I have a lot of shit like that. It's terrible stuff like that. Sí.
Hoy es cumpleaños de Arctic Wolf, que
Oh,
cumple
yeah?
14 años.
¿Qué?
So it's a shout out for him.
Ajá. ¿Y quién pide el shout out? Oye, ellos mismos están aquí.
Sí, dice PM Craft. PM Craft. Today is my son's 14th birthday.
Ah.
Would you give a shout out to Arctic Wolf?
Arctic Wolf. Well, I think that's how we're going to close out this feed. Thanks for answering my question. Sorry if it was too hard to answer. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, no problem, Marissa. Arctic Wolf?
Yes.
All right. Well,
Arctic Wolf.
Arctic Wolf turns 14 today. So I think the perfect way to end this live stream is with a birthday song for Arctic Wolf. What do you guys say? You ready to join me? Recap really quickly. If you want to see where I'm playing, hopefully I'm playing somewhere near you, go to www.voltaire.net/calendar. I'm sure it's down in the video description below. The merch that you've seen, with the exception of the soap, can be found in my merch store. There's a link down there below also. And of course, Patreon, if you really want a super behind-the-scenes look at the making of the Black Labyrinth, and if you want to help me make that album and that book, greatly appreciated. Not required, but greatly appreciated. And now, without further ado, we're going to close out this live stream. Thank you so much for joining Mayumi and I.
Thank you.
For a lovely evening chat. And we are going to all wish Arctic Wolf a
Emily Curtis, her birthday.
Okay, Emily Curtis. Oh,
34 today.
Where's Emily Curtis? I just saw her. Oh my God, it's my birthday too. 34. Happy birthday, Emily. All right, so I guess this is going out to Arctic Wolf and
Emily Curtis. Emily Curtis.
Okay, so really quickly, Beautiful Darling said, you don't do a VIP thing since you meet with everyone anyway, but earlier someone mentioned a VIP tea party. Is that something you would consider doing? I guess. I don't like VIP anything, to be honest with you. I'm a man of the people.
Do we like tea party?
Yeah, I like tea parties. I'd rather just have a tea party where everyone can go. That's just me. Happy birthday, Emily. Happy birthday, Arctic Wolf. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Well, let's sing our way out of this mess, shall we? Grab the chair, boys. We got another bucket kicker. Happy birthday, my old friend. It seems this horror show will never end. At any moment's your last breath. Here is to another day closer to death. The cake is on the table, but it is awfully bright, because there's so many candles on top. But you are so decrepit, your chest so tight, when you blow them out, your lungs are gonna pop. Thank you, Brenda. You cannot complain each time you feel a pain, though you have arthritis and gout. Cause when you're stuck convention, all your teeth fall out. So have another cigarette, have another beer. Raise that glass to one more year. Happy birthday, my old friend. It seems this horror show will never end. Any moment's your last breath. Here is to another day closer to death. Your skin is so worn out and old. All over your body it's sagging. Especially loose is your old caboose. You're dragging it behind you in a wagon. Well, you're an alcoholic and you're blind and deaf. And you have Alzheimer's, I bet. You're too old to remember, but you're too young to forget. So have another cigarette, have another beer. Raise that glass to one more year. Happy birthday, my old friend. It seems this horror show will never end. Any moment's your last breath. Here is to another day closer to death. You're so old, you smell like dust, Emily. And now your bones begin to rust, Arctic Fox. See that face? It's full of wrinkles. Orville? Absolutely. So have another cigarette, have another beer. Raise that glass to one more year. Happy birthday, my old friend. It seems this horror show will never end. Any moment's your last breath. Here is to another day closer to your sweet death. Arctic Wolf or Arctic Fox?
Arctic Wolf.
Arctic Wolf. Happy birthday, both of you. I am on Cameo now, and I do sing happy birthday songs to people. So if you have a loved one who you think might like to hear a birthday wish from me, please find me there. It's in the video description below. Thank you so much for hanging out with my Yumi and I. We've had a really, really lovely time. And we look forward to seeing you on the road. Goodbye, everybody. Be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.